Hi students, I hope all of you had good health. Today we will be beginning with our next revision video lesson on chapter 1, that is transport of mineral and food in plants. In this video lesson we will be discussing about the exercise question answer from chapter 1, that is transport of mineral and food in plants. So let us begin. The first part of the question is name the following. Now, membrane, which allows the solvent to pass through it but not the solute, is known as selectively permeable. That means membrane can be of various kind. Now, if the membrane allows both solute and solvent to pass through it, that time it is known as freely permeable. But when the membrane allows only the solvent to pass through it but not the solute, that time it is known as selectively permeable. Next is the process by which solid, liquid and gases molecules move from a place of higher to a place of lower concentration. Now this is known as diffusion. Okay, this is known as diffusion. Next is the upward movement of water and minerals from the root towards the top of the plant is known as ascent of sap. Now this is generally brought about by the tissue which is known as xylem. It conducts the water from soil through the root and then upwards to the leaves. And in this process, water and molecules also moves up, and this is known as ascent of sap. Next is the pull, which helps in conduction of water and minerals in the plants. And this is known as transpiration pull. Now students, what happens is when transpiration occurs, a lot amount of water is converted into water vapor, which is transpired out from the aerial parts of the plant. Now there is a shortage of water that occurs in that area, which results in creation of a suction force, for which the water from the roots move up to the leaves. And this is known as transpiration pull. Next is the tissue, which helps in conduction of water and minerals in the plant. It is the xylem, as I told you, that it helps in ascent of sap. So the answer is xylem. Next, an apparatus is used to measure the rate of transpiration. Now the instrument used to measure the rate of transpiration, it is potometer. Next is an anti-transparent. Anti-transparent means a chemical or substance that do not allow transpiration to occur. It is vaseline. Next is a plant having hydathote, and the answer is banana. The tissue which helps in conduction of food in plants is known as phloem. And the disease caused due to deficiency of nitrogen or nutrient in plant is chlorosis. Now, let us discuss with the short answer question from this part. First is define osmosis. Now, osmosis, it means the movement of water molecules from their region of higher concentration. Osmosis is the movement of water molecules from their region of higher to lower concentration across a semi-permeable membrane. Now the picture which is shown on the right hand side, it shows a mixture of sugar solution on the left hand side and a dilute sugar solution on the right hand side. That means the molecule of water is more on the dilute solution, dilute sugar solution side than on the concentrated sugar solution side. So what happens? In the middle, we have placed a semi-permeable membrane. Any kind of membrane can be taken, like cellophane membrane, goat's bladder, since it is performed in the laboratory. Now, after a few hours, we will see that the level of solution on the dilute sugar solution side will decrease, whereas that on the concentrated sugar solution side, it will increase. That is what is happening over here. The thing which is happening over here is the molecules of water from, since it is higher in concentration on the dilute sugar solution side, it will cross the semi-permeable membrane, which selectively allows the movement of solvent molecule but obstructs the movement of sugar molecules. And when it reaches on the side of the sugar solution, the level of water rises. And this is how osmosis occurs. Next is, what is a semi-permeable membrane? Now, it is a membrane which helps in passage of only solvent molecules through it, but not the solute. As I have mentioned, students, that in the middle, if we place a semi-permeable membrane, and in the second picture also I am showing that on the left hand side I have taken the salt water solution, on the right hand side we have taken fresh water. Now what happens? This semi-permeable membrane, it is a living membrane that allows the movement of solvent but not the movement of salt. Therefore, the water molecules move from the salt water side to the fresh water side, and the level increases, the movement of water occurs from the fresh water side to the salt water side, as the molecule of water is more towards the freshwater side than the saltwater side. And therefore, after few hours, we will see that the level of freshwater decreases down and that of the saltwater rises. Next is, what is the importance of water to plants? As we know that water is an important component of photosynthesis. Now the food that is produced by photosynthesis is glucose, that is needed to be transported to the different parts of the plant, and it is done with the help of water. And also water helps in dissolving of mineral gases and is transported from the soil to the plant, and also by means of transpiration it helps the plant to cool down. So this is the one of the most vital and important role of water to plant. Next is, how are root hairs adapted for absorbing water from the soil? Now root hairs, first of all, it helps in increasing or providing a large surface area so that it can absorb water from very distant places towards the plant. Next is, it has some modification in the cell itself. That is, first of all, it consists of a hypertonic or highly concentrated vacuole, means it consists of a cell sap within this vacuole which is highly concentrated. High concentration means solute is more than solvent. Whereas the water in the soil is less concentrated. So as we know, water moves from its region of higher concentration to its region of lower concentration. So water moves from the side of the soil inside the vacuole. Next is the cell wall is freely permeable. That is why it helps in movement of water inside the cell by diffusion, and since the cell membrane is semi-permeable, therefore it allows selective entry of water or solvent but doesn't allow the entry of any kind of solute. This is how from one cell to another cell the water moves, and also root hair cell by increasing a large surface area can trap a little amount of water also that is available for the plant. Next is what is diffusion? Now in osmosis, it always takes place against or rather through a semi-permeable membrane. That means a leaving membrane is required in the process. But just you think, students, of an example that if you spray a perfume on one corner of your room, after few minutes you will get the same smell at a place or in a room that is distant from the area or situated far apart from the area where you have sprayed the perfume. Now how it is occurring? This is occurring because the molecule of perfume where you have sprayed was in higher concentration in that particular room. Now it slowly moves towards its lower concentration, that is in another room which is situated at a distant place. You get the smell over there because the molecules of perfume gets diffused from higher to lower concentration. Now this kind of movement from their region of higher concentration to their region of lower concentration till the concentration gradient becomes equal on either side is known as diffusion. That means the basic difference between osmosis and diffusion is that in diffusion, any kind of movement of molecules can take place, whereas in case of osmosis, only water molecules or solvent molecules move. Next is in case of diffusion, no involvement of semi-permeable membrane is required, whereas in case of osmosis, there is an active involvement of the semi-permeable membrane. Next is distinguish between root pressure and turgor pressure. Now students, let us first understand the concept that what is root pressure. Now the picture which is given on the right hand side, it shows that water is being absorbed by the root hair cell from the surrounding, and by the process of diffusion and osmosis, rather cell to cell osmosis, the water moves from one cell into the next cell. Again, by the same process, from the second cell, it moves to the third cell. Again, by the same process of diffusion and osmosis, it moves on to the fourth cell. And after that, when it reaches the xylem, the transpiration pull just helps in the process of ascent of sap so that the water and mineral can reach up to the leaves. Now, when the water continuously enters the root cells due to continuous cell-to-cell osmosis, a pressure is developed in this root cortical portion of the root that helps in pushing the water inside. Now this pressure which is built up over here due to continuous entry or inflow of water in the root hair cell is known as root pressure. And turgor pressure is something which is built within a particular cell. When the cell is filled up with water, when the cell is in its turgid condition, that time the swollen protoplasm forces or pressurizes the cell wall outside. And this outward pressure of the protoplasm on the cell wall is known as turgor pressure. That means root pressure is a pressure that is built up within the entire root cells, whereas turgor pressure is a pressure which is built up within a particular turgid cell. So this is the basic difference. Next is, what is the importance of turgor pressure in plant? Now there are various kind of importance of turgor pressure in the plant. Firstly, it helps to keep the leaves, flower, fruit of the plant expanded. Now, as I said you students, like when adequate amount of water will be available, that time the cells will swell up with the water, and when it swells up with the water, it becomes expanded, and the leaves, flower, fruits looks healthy. They grow faster. Even the cellular activity within their cell goes on fast. Now, it also helps in providing strength and rigidity to plant parts. Like if you have ever seen climbers, plant-like climbers, if water is not available to them properly, what happens due to wilting or drooping down of parts? It will no more be able to twirl around a hard surface, and as a result, it will not get the strength to hold it so. That is why if water is available to those plants, they will get the strength to hold a rigid object. And even water gives rigidity to the soft parts like newly formed tissues, newly formed cells, which is present within flower, fruits, and so on. And lastly, it helps in opening and closing of stomata, a diagram which is given on the right hand side, students. Now this diagram, this is known as the guard cell. This bean-shaped cell is known as the guard cell. Now water, when it will be available within this guard cell, what happens? It moves, bulges and moves outward, and as a result the stoma opens. And whenever water will not be available within this guard cell, it will droop down and the stoma will close like this, which is also a mechanism of regulation of transpiration, even exchange of respiratory gases. This is how turgor pressure is important. Next is, what do roots absorb from the soil? And the very simple answer is it absorbs water and mineral from the soil. Next is, what is the basic difference between exosmosis and endosmosis? Now, students, when osmosis of water occurs from outside of the cell to inside of the cell, it is known as endosmosis. And why it occurs? Because the cell sap of the cell is highly concentrated with respect to the outside environment. Therefore, water enters the cell and the cell becomes turgid. Whereas, if by some or the other means the outside of the cell becomes highly concentrated than inside the cell sap of the plant, then water moves from inside of the cell to the outside, and this is known as exosmosis. And it leads to plasmolysis of the cell, means shrinkage of the protoplasm. Even it may lead to wilting, dehydration. So this is the basic difference between exosmosis and endosmosis. This is the inflow of water, that is the withdrawal of water. So firstly, endosmosis is the inflow of water, and exosmosis is the withdrawal of water. Now in case of endosmosis, it leads to deplasmolysis of a cell, whereas in case of exosmosis, it leads to plasmolysis followed by placidity of the cell. Next is, what is plasmolysis? It is simply the shrinkage of protoplasm of a cell from its wall due to loss of water by exosmosis when the cell is kept in hypertonic solution. Now students, as all of you can see that the cell, the normal cell, when it is dipped in a highly concentrated solution like sugar solution or salt solution, what happens? The outside of the cell sap becomes hyperconcentrated or highly concentrated, whereas the cell sap inside the cell becomes less concentrated. Therefore, waters from the cell sap as well as from the protoplasm starts moving out by the process of exosmosis. And what happens due to that? As you can see, students, in the stages B, C, and D, the entire protoplasm is shrinking from the cell wall. Cell wall remains intact. And this shrinking of the protoplasm from the cell wall due to the influence of highly concentrated or hyperconcentrated solution is known as plasmolysis. Next is the factor which control transpiration. The factors which control transpiration are temperature, sunlight, humidity, and air movements. As students, I explained you in our previous video lesson that as the temperature increases, therefore the conversion of water to water vapor also increases. Therefore, the rate of transpiration increases with increase in temperature. Next is sunlight. Now during the day, the stomata remains wide open, whereas during night, the stomata remains closed. Now, when the stomata is open, it helps in the process of transpiration, whereas in the dark, when the stomata is closed, no transpiration takes place through stomata. Therefore, sunlight influences transpiration. Next is humidity. Humidity means the amount of water vapor so present within the atmosphere. Now, when the outside atmosphere is humid, and also the inside of the plant cell, that is the leaf, is also consisting of higher amount of water vapor. So the outside and inside environment has almost equal amount of water vapor, therefore no diffusion gradient is created. And as a result, there is less formation or less water is removed from the leaf to the outside. Therefore, the more the humidity, the less is the transpiration. Next is air movement. Now, air movement, the more the humid condition, I said, the less will be the transpiration. But if there is a windy weather, it will blow away all the water vapor which is being released out of the leaf, and as a result, a steep diffusion gradient will be created from inside of the cell to the outside. And as a result, the diffusion will be of transpiration will be much higher on an air movement when air movement is there. So this is how these factors influences transpiration. Next is a potometer. As students, all of you can see on the right hand side, I have pasted a picture over here which shows an instrument known as potometer. Now, potometer is an apparatus used to measure the rate of transpiration. And how it does it? We will put a twig on one end of this apparatus, and another end of this capillary tube will be placed in a beaker containing colored water. Now, what happens when the twig will start uptaking the water? The air bubble which we have introduced over here will also move towards the plant, which shows that this air movement occurs due to uptake of water by this leafy twig. And as a result, we can measure a rate of transpiration. That is why it's an instrument used to measure the rate of transpiration. Next is What is wilting? Now, wilting is the loss of rigidity of non-woody parts of the plant, and this occurs due to continuous transpiration. The right-hand side picture is a common phenomenon of wilting, students, which we have often seen during hot summer days when the rate of absorption of water by the root is less than the water transpired. So what happens again when in the evening we just water the potted plant, the non-woody parts of plant again regains back its shape. Now, if we do not water the plant adequately and this wilting goes on, it leads to dehydration and finally plasmolysis and death of the plant. So wilting is simply the loss of rigidity of non-woody parts of plant. Next is write down the disadvantage of transpiration. Now there are various disadvantages which is associated with transpiration. Firstly, it leads to poor growth and dehydration of the plant parts due to excessive occurrence. Okay. And next, it leads to wilting of the plant. That is, when there will be excessive transpiration, the plant will not be able to grow properly due to loss of rigidity of plant parts. And also, it leads to wilting, and if dehydration is to a dangerous level, then the plant may die. Next is what are hydathodes? Now the right hand side picture shows the process of guttation that occurs through hydathode. Now hydathode are special opening which are found on the margin of the leaves, students. Margin of the leaves means, see, at the end of the vein, all the droplets of water you can see, these are found just at the tip of the vein. That means there is an opening which is present at the tip of the vein which allows this process of guttation. So this opening which allows this process of guttation, that means loss of water in the form of droplet, rather release of water in the form of droplet. This tiny holes which are present over here, opening which is present at the tip of the vein, is known as hydathode. So hydathode has a special opening on the margin of leaf at the tip of vein through which guttation takes place. Next is what is root pressure? As I have already told you, students, that it is the pressure developed in the root due to continuous inflow of water and is responsible for pushing the sap upward. This is known as root pressure. Next is name the different elements present in the xylem tissue. The different elements present in the xylem tissue is tracheids, vessel, xylem parenchyma, and xylem sclerenchyma. Xylem sclerenchyma and xylem fiber are the same thing, students. These are the different component of xylem tissue. Next is, what are the function of xylem in plant? Now, xylem is mainly associated with conduction of water and minerals from soil upwards into the leaves. This is the function of xylem in plant. Next, what are the different elements of phloem? Now, in case of xylem, all the elements which were present, I am just moving on to the last slide, which I have already shown, that in case of xylem, all the vessels which were present over here, that is tracheids, vessels, and xylem parenchyma, all were dead, except the xylem parenchyma, which is only living tissue. While in case of phloem, all the cells which you all can see, that is the sieve tube, companion cell, phloem parenchyma, and phloem fiber, all are living, except which is dead, that is the phloem fiber. sieve tube, companion cell, phloem parenchyma are all living. That is why you can see in this picture, nucleus can be seen in the cell. Whereas in the previous picture, you will not find any nucleus over here. So that is why all these are living cells. The only dead component of phloem is phloem fiber. The next is, what are the phloem tissues in plant and state their function. Now the different phloem tissues are, first is sieve tube, which is the main conducting tissue in phloem. Like in case of xylem, the conducting tissue is xylem. It is tracheids and vessels. But in phloem, the conducting tissue is the living cell and it is the phloem. It is the sieve tube. Next is companion cell, which remains associated with the sieve tube. Helps to control the activity of the sieve element. Next is phloem parenchyma. It mainly helps in lateral transportation of food. Remember students, parenchyma is a kind of plant's tissue which always is associated with storage of food. So now, since this companion cell, sieve tube and all other cells are working for one or the other function, so they require food. Now where from they will be getting their food? And this occurs from phloem parenchyma. It mainly helps in storage and transportation of food also. Next is phloem fiber. If you have ever seen coconut coir, that coir is also an example of phloem fiber. Now this phloem fiber helps to provide mechanical strength. This is how it functions. Next, what is the difference between macro and micronutrient? Firstly, macronutrients are those nutrients which can be found in easily detectable quantity in plant, which is more than 1 ppm, means parts per million. Whereas micronutrient which is found in plant are found in quantities less than 1 ppm of dry matter. So this is macro and micronutrient. An example of macronutrient is nitrogen, phosphorus. Whereas example of micronutrient is iron and boron. You can give some other examples too. So students, I hope you have understood the chapter once more in the form of this question answer session. If you have any doubt, any queries, if you need clarification, go through the video and ask me about your doubt in our next video lesson, in our next Google Meet session. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.